welcome to the Dead Share Challenge. We are back. It is August. We've got our first guest for the August lineup, and I am so excited to introduce you to her in a moment. So where are you? You are at the Dare to Share Challenge. This is the place where real and raw leaders come to the stage. They join me to share their most intimate parts of their story, their truth, their vulnerability, real things that they're experiencing right now even. Why? So that you see the human behind the perception. So that the next time you look up at someone and you think, man, how can they do that? They don't have the life I have. They don't have the fears I have. They don't have the struggles I have. Yes, they do. And this is where you get to know it all. So welcome to the Dead Share Challenge. Hannah, I am so happy to have you with us.
I am so excited to talk to you. I've watched your first season on YouTube and I cannot wait.
So Hannah, I'm so happy to have you with us. And I would love to ask you, before we dive in, what made you say yes to coming on the Dead Share Challenge? Because I know for a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing, but I'm not ready.
I think I've watched your evolution over the last few months, especially since I met you at the Women Thrive Summit, which was probably coming to about a year ago.
I know.
Which is so scary when kind of we all started to get to know each other and kind of meet each other. So I'm one of those that sits on the sidelines and I just watch and I just see what people are doing. And then I saw that you launched this challenge and I saw some of the previous guests and I thought this is a bit of me, because I know, and my friends joke about it, they always say to me, oh yeah, Hannah, she's made in a lab. Hannah does all these things. She's this kind of superhuman person. And we joke about it. And they know the struggles that go on behind the scenes. They're my best friends. But I am aware that from the public facing side, people don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. And I think especially how the world is moving on, and we're all trying to move away from this real toxic positivity and that almost toxic positive view of entrepreneurship, running a business and everything like that. I thought this is an opportunity to talk about things that you don't often get to talk about in podcast interviews. People want to know about your business and your business journey. They want to know about the highs and the lows. However, they don't always want to know the detail. They don't want to know the real hardcore vulnerabilities almost. So yeah, I'm terrified, but also thought, let's do it.
I love that. So, there was, I forget who it was, but someone in the back end of July, she said, when Claire asks you what you're willing to dead share, it's like you have that heart flutter, right? It's like, am I really going to share this? But that's what we want, because for you guys watching, exactly what Hannah said, we don't get to see behind the scenes. And this is the part that connects us all, because it's what we all experience, it's what we all navigate. So I am so excited to dive in. Shall we do it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I have the first question for you is, which level of vulnerability are you opting for today? So we have the stretchy level, which is something that you've already overcome. It's your hero's journey, it's your story, it's something that you've experienced and navigated and come through the other side. Or we have the extreme level. And this is something that you're navigating in real time right now. Can be anything, nothing is off the table, but where do you want to go today?
So originally I was like, I'm going to go for stretch level. I'll talk about something I've overcome. And then the more I was thinking about this, I thought there's something that I'm going through at the moment that I think is probably really worth talking about. That is kind of talked about. However, when I've touched on it in previous interviews, kind of gets brushed over. So I think I'm so extreme, Claire.
Let's do it. And now I'm even more excited. I love it when it's a last minute change. It's like I was going to play it safe, but now I'm going all in.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So we have two questions for Hannah today. And the first question is, what does being a real and a raw leader mean to you? And we're not just talking about in business, right? We're talking about the human, the woman, the mother, the person who is Hannah behind the scenes. That realness and that rawness. How does that look to you in your everyday life?
And that is such a great question, because I love how you brought in everything, because that is something that I'm very much about. Something that I've talked about a lot previously is I wouldn't I've always struggled with the word entrepreneur. I make money from running a business, and that has got multiple brands underneath it. I've done a lot of different things. I've got a country music festival, a coaching business. I was a singer-songwriter. I've been a singing teacher, also work in the corporate world. So as a result, I always felt a little bit fraudulent calling myself an entrepreneur, because as far as the world was concerned, I wasn't all in. I was still in the corporate world. And there's a reason why I do that. And it's a very selfish reason, in that I want the stability. I want financial security for my family. And I love then that you bring in kind of being a mum, because I'm a mum of a 14-year-old and I've got an 11-year-old stepdaughter. I've also recently got 2 dogs that like having babies again. And I've also then got passion projects. I'm on the board of directors for the Inspirational Women of Portsmouth. I'm just embarking on another new opportunity in kind of the UK country music space. So I am what they would call multifaceted. So what being a real and raw leader means to me is really trusting my gut and showing others that they can trust their gut as well. It's about leading the way and sharing some vulnerabilities. And I think there is a real fine line between sharing a vulnerability that is going to inspire and create aspiration in others so they know that they can do that, or there's oversharing. And I think that's a really individual line. There are some things in my past, in my kind of previous chapters of my life, that I'm still not willing to share yet because they're still so raw. But I think me being able to share some vulnerabilities, and it's not just about being in your comfort zone, because today is going to be very much out of my comfort zone. But I think being able to lead and show that it's okay to talk about the really difficult times, to talk about the challenges, but also embrace what your life means for you, and being able to show that it is possible to do all the things. There's the most amazing quote, which Oprah Winfrey stole, and I quoted her for quite a long time. Turns out it's an incredible woman from the 60s, a kind of feminist writer and activist called Betty Friedman. And she says, you can have it all, just not at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is my mantra. I refuse to choose. In the last few years, I've had people say to me, you have to choose the business coaching over the music, or the music over the I'm like, no, I don't. My life is naturally going to have its twists and turns. It's going to have its pathway. And because of that, some parts of what I do are going to be elevated, while others might sit slightly more in the background, and then it will swap around. And I think, to me, being a real and a raw and authentic leader, being able to show that it's okay to change direction. It's okay to reinvent yourself. It's okay, as you've done, to kind of be able to say, well, I was heading in this direction, but that's not serving me anymore. And rather than having that pressure of definition of success, and one of the things I feel very, very strongly about is the financial aspect. Now, I am in a very privileged position in that I get paid very handsomely from a corporate role, which is why I choose not to give it up. It allows me to then do the things that I want to do without that financial pressure. But I've worked with so many women who the only measure of success is that financial number in the bank and the amount of money. And we all know that businesses have peaks and troughs. There are so many uncontrollable factors in the economy, in the world, affect the way that business runs. So for me, it's showing that it's not just about the financial aspect. And don't get me wrong, money makes the world go round. We all need it. But it's also having that focus on other areas. Are you being creative in what you do, in your doing? Are you having an impact in what you're doing? And that together measures that success. So it's kind of like a real rambling and like bleh of all the different ways that I think you can be a real and raw, authentic leader. But a lot of it is about following your gut and following your heart, and knowing that you're doing the right thing for the right reason in the right moment. And if any of those things come out of alignment, you've got the power to be able to shift and change direction. And that's what I want to show.
Absolutely. I love that so much. How many of you have, there's this old saying, my mum used to say it, and tell me if yours did in the comments, but it's, you made your bed, now lie in it. And it's such a kind of old generational mindset of, you've chosen this path, now you stick to it, you do that forever. There is no detouring, there's no changing, there's no pivoting. And it's like, no, we get to evolve, we get to grow, we get to have different interests at different times in our life, and that's okay. And I just love everything that you shared there. Multifaceted, entrepreneurial, you get to have it all, just not at the same time. Beautiful quote. I might start using that.
It's one of my favorites, and something that my dad instilled into me. And it was actually whilst I was going through my divorce, which I have spoken about publicly. I came out of a very, very toxic relationship. I had completely lost sight of who I was. I had no self-confidence, no self-belief. I would describe myself as I was existing then, just day by day, just existing. And it was only due to having a child that I continued existing. However, what he said to me at that time when we were trying to navigate that, and it's stuck with me ever since, is you make decisions, in the right faith. You make decisions based on the information that you have at the time in that right faith. And you have to deal with the consequences. And sometimes those consequences are really positive, and sometimes those consequences can be negative. But you have then the power to change. You have the power to evolve, move directions, make another decisions. Decisions are just for now. So I always tell my clients when I'm working with them in business, decisions are just for now. And I don't think we've been told that enough, especially within our generation of women. We're almost sandwiched in between, say, having a lot of that old school, old-fashioned pressure and advice on societal expectations. We're not the generation of our children who are slightly freer. Obviously there's a whole host of additional stresses and strains that they've got, but they've been told by us, you have the freedom to choose. You don't have to have that linear career path. You don't have to have that linear educational system. There are options available to you. And I think we're almost torn by what we were told growing up and fighting against that and trying to break free and trying to then live in this new way. So, gosh, it's complicated, isn't it?
Absolutely. But it starts with the game changers. It starts with the generational breakers who are here to say, well, you don't want to do it like that anymore. So I love all of that. Let's dive into the main question, shall we? So, Hannah, what are you willing to dare to share with us all today?
So what I wanted to share, and it is something that is spoken about a lot, but I wanted to give a different perspective. So I am a late diagnosed ADHD. So pretty much a year ago, I was undergoing assessment for ADHD testing. And at the end of August, I received my official diagnosis that I have combined type ADHD. Now, it is one of the only times in my life that I have scored 100% on a test. I came out absolutely classic ADHD. And the reason I want to talk about this, because we know it's in the media a lot. We know that there are a lot of TikTok videos out there. Whenever I talk about this in the entrepreneurial space, whenever I talk about it on podcasts, we always talk about the superpower. Now, ADHD does have a superpower. There is a reason why I balance so many things. There is a reason why I have to have so many plates spinning at the same time. And yes, it is a superpower. My organizational skills when I focus are like no other. The spreadsheets that I create, the lists that I create, the things that I can do are at times feel superhuman. However, there's a huge flip side to that. And that is the bit that I don't see spoken about in the entrepreneurial space in the same way at the moment. And that is the crippling anxiety. It is the constant self-doubt. Now, don't get me wrong, as entrepreneurs, and especially as women, we do have that self-doubt. It creeps in so frequently. However, what I have come to discover, and if I'd have known about ADHD when I was a child, if that had just been a thing for girls, if that had been recognised, my life would have been so much easier, because I have had times in my life where I have been taken advantage of in terms of I've had people who have really knocked me down, who have told me that I am nothing, who have really just got that deep in, really kind of deep into your psyche and convinced me that I am worthless. Now, there are elements to kind of multiple elements to that, and again multiple facets with that, as there is with everything. But had I have known that with ADHD I would believe people so easily when they said negative things about me, I could have done something about it. Now, knowing I've got ADHD, knowing that my brain chemistry is different, there is research showing that parts of an ADHD brain are different sizes to that of a neurotypical. We do respond in different ways. I know that, I can have that inner dialogue with myself. I do talk to myself quite a lot. Have that inner dialogue with myself, almost say, is this something that I have to take on board, or is this a notion that I can reject? Have I done something wrong? Have I upset somebody? Have I behaved in a way that is less than desirable? Now, 99.9 reoccurring percent times, haven't done anything wrong. It is somebody else's problem, or I have a habit of reflecting things back on people, not intentionally, but just through all of the things that I do, especially within the corporate world. I have found that I reflect things back on people that they then don't like to see. And that then causes a negativity. It causes people to talk about me behind my back. And recently I found out that a lot of people in my day job have been talking about me behind my back, have been saying negative things. Now, if that had come before the diagnosis of ADHD and all of the research that I've done, because one of the superpowers of ADHD is hyperfocus and super research and just finding out everything about a particular topic. So if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have been aware of how easy it is to manipulate my brain to tell me that I am bad, tell me that I am a bad person. And if I'd have known that going through school, going through university, navigating relationships, navigating that first round of employment, my life would have been so different. But what that has looked like, and still has moments of that now, is people see this very, very confident person speaking. I've been on a variety of summits now. I've been on a variety of podcasts. I come across very confidently. People see me talk in person. I come across very confidently. I can walk into any situation and command that situation. What people don't know is the moment before I've walked into that, I am riddled with self-doubt, riddled with anxiety to the point of tears quite often. And the effort that it takes to psych myself up to walk into those situations is not what people would expect when they see me present confidently. And that still happens now when I've done the work, when I've had the therapy, I've had the counselling, had the diagnosis, I understand why. My gosh, how different would life have been if I understood that back then? That's why I have been taken advantage of by previous partners, by being able to be convinced that I was worthless. And I still have those moments now. You know, my ex-partner, the father of my son, and my son is 14. And one thing I am very aware of is all of this is out on the internet, right? So this is, again, the fine line between vulnerability and oversharing. I have to be very conscious of what my son might see going forward. This remains on the internet forever. It's not like when we were young and you wrote a note and that note could get scrumpled up and no one would ever know about it. So there are things I've experienced that I won't ever talk about. But what I do talk about is coercive control that I was subjected to. And then this is why this is so complicated, because coercive control can happen to anybody. You can be in any relationship and not realise that you are being subjected to coercive control until it's too late. Now, put coercive control with an ADHD person who can very, very quickly be convinced that they are worthless, that they have nothing to offer the world. And that is such a dangerous combination, because had it not have been for the fact that I was a mother and had something to live for, I don't know what my life would have ended up looking like. And even now, son is 14, he doesn't have much of a relationship with his father, but that's due to his father's behaviour rather than anything that I've done. But I still get abusive messaging, I still get abusive emails, and I still get that immediate emotional reaction of worthlessness, of I've done something wrong, of questioning every single action. And that's what people don't see behind the scenes. They see this very confident person, but they don't see almost the amount of effort it takes to get to that confidence. And that's not because I'm being inauthentic, because that's something that I've really grappled with over my time, especially when I was singing and performing as my country music alter ego, Lily Garland. You would see Lily Garland on stage and she would be this big, flamboyant, strutting around. At one point, I got described as like the Tina Turner of the country music world because I'd be strutting across that stage. But we all know what was going on with Tina Turner behind the scenes. And, for me, when I was putting that facade on, I didn't feel authentic. I was covering up because I wasn't talking about it. I didn't understand how to talk about it in a way that connected. And they do say, don't they, sometimes it's better to talk from the scar than it is from the wound. And back then, the wound was still very, very much open. And although that had healed, still behind the scenes, I have those absolute crippling moments of self-doubt. But what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm a fool. I'm embarrassing. People are just humoring me. And it's so debilitating sometimes, which is why I will disappear from social media for periods of time, because I don't want to post inauthentically. I also don't want to necessarily share what I'm going through in that moment because it's too raw. I need to get to the other side before I can start to talk about it. And that again is sometimes you get criticized as an entrepreneur, don't you? Because you've got to be visible. But then when you disappear, people then want to criticize. And then I get the whole cycle again of, that kind of that self-doubt. But that's there. Although ADHD comes with a superpower, and some of which I'm talking about will connect with people even if they don't have ADHD. What ADHD does is it puts me in a dark hole at times. It can be very, very difficult to come back out of, and I have to deploy every tool in my toolbox, which I have been lucky and privileged enough to be able to do, to learn, to invest in therapy. That's not what people see when you're on social media or when you're on a podcast interview, when I'm hosting a brunch or I'm running my festival. That's not the version of me that you see.
Until now. Wow. I was just kind of mesmerized by you talking, Hannah, because I resonate so much with so much that you said. I'm undiagnosed, but I'm also 99.9% sure that I have ADHD, and also being in a very toxic relationship, and everything that you're just saying is like, yeah. And I'm sure you guys watching, whether you have ADHD or not, we've all had those situations where we put on this alter ego or we hide behind this facade because we try and protect ourselves, right? It's like if people throw stones but you're not really showing who you are, then it's easier to bounce them off. But when you're fully in your realness and your rawness and your vulnerability and people throw stones, it can hurt a lot deeper. And I think that's a big element of the online space as well. And we have this protection bubble almost around us, and it's like, okay, you can see this much, but the rest I'm going to keep away from any stones that are thrown. So I really commend you for speaking on this, for sharing this, because you're right, it's not something that people speak about because of the toxic negativity, the toxic positivity of we only want to talk about the superpowers and the great aspects because otherwise we're going to disempower people. But it's not true. It's knowledge is key, right? And awareness is key. And having that knowledge that, this is just an element of ADHD, it can actually be a big sigh of relief to just know that.
And I think that's it. There's a wide variety, and obviously as time evolves, there's always names put to everything, isn't there? And I am aware that there are people who are undiagnosed because they don't want a label. And again, you do you. Ever worked? I need to know things. I'm an information seeker. I have to understand to be able to move forward, which is why I sought out a diagnosis for myself. And what I've then seen is I've done a lot of research. There's various things, and I always get the words wrong because, again, information just tips out of my brain. But there's like a rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or dysmorphia, I think it is. And that is is a real classic symptom of ADHD, of when somebody has a slight change in body language, drives my partner or my husband, drives him mad, because I will then suddenly say to him, "Are you mad at me?" And it's because there's been an evidence. Now he hasn't thought about anything, but I am so sensitive to changing people's body language. And that can be on a Teams call, in person. Somebody does minute thing different. The tone of voice, the inflection is slightly different to what I'm expecting. And that's when I go down that I've said something that's upset them, or I've said something stupid, or I've embarrassed myself, or I've made a fool of myself. And of course, when you put yourself in that public speaking realm, imagine how often then those thoughts that kind of then go through my mind. And knowing that now, I can then sit and say to myself, hold on a second, are you reading too much into this? And again, it's a constant internal dialogue, because I want to validate my feelings, and there are times when, rightfully so, I am upset about it, or I am frustrated because of somebody behaving in a particular way, because of something that somebody said to me. So it's a really fine line. Again, small conversations like full of fine lines. There's a really fine line between validating my own feelings and not diminishing that, but then also saying, is that a thing? Is that something that you need to get upset, or is that something you need to challenge? And that has been a real lesson learning, and I'm still learning now, of when to go, no, that's just me. That's just the ADHD. Being a bit of a pain in the butt. It's okay. Keep moving forward. To, hang on a second, I'm not comfortable with the way that person's talking to me or behaving towards me, and I need to challenge that. And that's really, really difficult in the corporate space. I'm much better doing that in the spaces, but in the corporate space, there's still a very masculine driven, don't speak up if you're a woman, don't show your emotion. And I have been through various situations over the last few years where I have shown my emotion, where I have shown my frustration, and justifiably so, because people are being idiots, for a very mild word. I could have said a whole load of other things, and they're talking to me inappropriately, and they're being rude, and they're questioning my judgment and my decision making unnecessarily. But when I've reacted to that, because again, one of the things with ADHD, and it's not just ADHD, other people do have it as well, but almost that reaction. Now, one thing that I pride myself in is I will never say anything that I don't mean, ever. If I say something causes offence to somebody, you better believe I intend to do that, because I've been on the receiving end of people saying something really horrible and then going, oh, but I didn't mean it. So I have really lived my life with, I don't say anything I don't mean. So if I say something quite cutting, it's intentional. And that people really do struggle with that. And although there is an impulsivity of saying what I think is what I really think.
Yeah.
And I've got to that point where I actually have to warn people sometimes and say, you really want to go down this path, because I will never start an argument. I'll never, ever start anything. My gosh, I'm going to finish it. And that is, again, something that I'm having to learn to control and be aware of. So what people see of me being very easy, having these conversations, what's anyone ever opened my brain? I think you'd find like, wow, I would describe it as like basically the whole of the Minions clan are like literally inside my head constantly. I used to before I knew I had ADHD, I used to describe my brain as, Mr. Mr.
Yeah.
From the Mr. Men, the one like made of spaghetti, but he's all pink, right? Yeah. So imagine Mr. Messy. Every single strand of him is a different color. That's my brain. So as a result, I get exhausted. I have to tuck myself away not this weekend just gone, but the previous weekend, I went to a country music festival and I was interviewing some of the artists and the traders, and I was very much on show, and I was authentic and I was me, but I was having to still put a lot of effort in to do that. And so as a result, on the Sunday, I don't want to talk to anybody. And that's the part that people don't see. They see you on the go all the time, all the time, all the time. And I think that's so classic of all entrepreneurs, is we're on the go so much, sometimes you crash and you have to take that time away. But you feel guilty taking that time away because no one ever talks about the fact that you have to take that time. We talk about having breaks, we talk about making sure you go on holiday, but again, it's all very positive. What they don't see is when you are in a darkened room questioning your existence in this world, and why did I choose this path? And you know, that's, I think, what people don't see behind the scenes. It's of all entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs, especially female entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Hannah, this is so incredible. And I know you guys are just going to be mesmerized as I am, because Hannah, you speak so passionately about everything that you've gone over, and there's so much in this. I urge you guys to watch this again, because there are so many different threads that you can follow here, whether it's the ADHD route, whether it's the working in different sectors and different industries as well as being an entrepreneur, whether it's juggling coming out of toxic relationships. So many golden nuggets in this interview. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me today and for daring to share your own real and raw leadership, your vulnerability, and of course your superpower. Can you please tell everyone where they can find you and get in your world?
Yeah, sure. The best place is come on over to Instagram. My main Instagram account is _female creative. And from there, you'll be able to find Country on the Coast, which is my festival. I also host a radio show every week as well for country music. So all of that's on there, but also head to my website, www.thefemalecreative.co.uk, has got all about me, various links, access to my content. I'm just about to start sending out a lot of my content via Substack. It's a really wonderful platform that I've just feeling really comfortable in. So yeah, go and have a look, check out my socials. Then come and follow me on Substack, because there'll be lots of things like this, lots of talking and lots of sharing.
That's what we love. Amazing. All the links will be in the show notes below, so make sure you go and check those out. Go and get in Hannah's world. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye everyone.